Awesome. Good morning, you guys. Like I generally say, if there's questions that come up, for those of you that are live on the call, feel free to, raise your hand in here or comment in the chat box. For those that are on Facebook, and I see people starting to jump on over here, if you could just make sure to add in the comment box. There's a couple things that I wanted to share today. So yesterday, we went really deep into, some of the market trends, but we also started looking at, just some of the risk management pieces that are going to be really important. And one of the conversations that we've been having a lot is this conversation around foreclosures, right? This conversation around this pre-foreclosure market. And as we work with Christina Griffin, who's the #1 REO agent in the nation, and consult with her on this boot camp that we're building out for September, we really want to look at what is the opportunity and when is it coming, right? And we keep talking about that. We keep talking about, hey, we need to get into conversation with those clients that are potentially experiencing some challenges as it pertains to their mortgage. And I'm gonna give you an example, and then I'm also gonna share. I don't know how many of you guys are keeping an eye on real estate news, right? But it's really important that we have an understanding of what's going on. And for those that are not aware, when we look just at California, right, which highly affects us, I think it's important to note that as of right now, as of today, unless something changes within the next 2 weeks, right? Unless something changes within the next 2 weeks, the moratorium, right? The moratorium on evictions and foreclosures has been lifted as of September 1st, with filings being able to be done as early as September 2nd, right? So that's a huge, that's something that's going to be really important as we're looking at, hey, right now is the time to call your clients, right? We talk about this fiduciary duty that we have to our clients, and the two sides of it. Of part of this reason that we get into the business of real estate is to help our clients to create more equity, right? To help create value for our clients, to help them to build a legacy, to build wealth. And on the flip side of that, right, sometimes in a market where they're experiencing financial challenges, where they're experiencing some financial distress, then our fiduciary duty is on the other side of that, right? It's on helping them to protect their financial reputation, right? Helping them to not necessarily have to be in a challenging situation, maybe sometimes even helping them sell their property if that's what's in the best interest for them, right? If that's what's in the best interest for them. I was speaking with somebody yesterday, and one of the things that I thought was really interesting in our conversation is we were talking about these forbearance agreements, and she mentioned, that some of her clients were saying, I'm in this forbearance, but I never received paperwork around it, right? Or I don't know what the terms are of the agreement, right? I just know that I don't have to make payments right now. And that's a scary thought. And she asked, is that true? Is that accurate, that some people, are not aware of what is on this agreement or what they actually agreed to when they paused their loan? And so I want to remind you of a couple things. When we originally had the forbearance conversation about what was coming down the pipeline, what we realized is that the majority of the forbearance agreements, there's 4 types, right? There's 4 types that we're seeing pretty consistently. One of those, right? One of those is, and the one that most people are hoping that they get, right, is these payments will be tacked on to the end of your loan. So if you're on a 30-year loan, right, a 30-year fixed loan, now you have additional payments for those payments that were missed, right? That's what we would call a fairly reasonable type of forbearance. You've got a second one that says, hey, we're gonna increase the payment amounts. Once you start paying, we're gonna increase those payment amounts so that you're able to catch up on those payments, right? So that you're able to catch up on those payments. And that's okay, right? That's not terrible. The third one says, hey, we're gonna put you in some type of forbearance agreement, but in 90 days, in 120 days, in whatever time frame you are finished or this forbearance is completed, right? We're gonna expect a balloon payment. We're gonna expect a balloon payment. And then the fourth one, and I'm gonna talk about these two a little bit more in depth. The fourth one is, hey, there's no terms, we'll figure it out later, right? There's no terms, we'll figure it out later. And that's very scary, right? That's very scary as it relates to these forbearance agreements. And the way that some individuals are opting in is also really challenging. So I had shared with you guys in the past that I had my own brother, right, who the financial institution called him and asked him over the phone if he was interested in opting into a forbearance, right? Opting in over the phone. I'll give you another example. There was a client, 78 years old, right? A 78-year-old client, and the realtor called on their behalf, right? And asked the financial institution, hey, I want to find out more about these forbearance agreements. The financial institution says, you know, no problem. We can definitely opt you in. In fact, we can waive your payments. You'll still accrue interest, but we can waive your payments for the next 90 days, right? We can waive those payments. Would you like to opt in, right, over the phone? The agent, having a little bit more knowledge around real estate, then asked a further question and said, hey, you know, is interest going to accrue? They said, yes, interest continues to accrue. They said, great. In 90 days, once this forbearance is lifted, what happens? Well, you have to make a balloon payment, right? You have to make payment on the mortgage. And so the challenge is that many of us, because we're in the industry, because we have a little bit more of an understanding of what's happening, it's a lot easier for us to forget that our clients may not know the right questions to ask, right? That our clients may be in agreements where they've opted in over the phone without full clarity on exactly what they were opting into, where they thought, hey, you know, I have a little bit of reprieve here because I can not necessarily make payments. And now they're dug into a hole where we know that what we call a serious delinquency, 90 days or more, is higher than it's been, right? Is much higher than it's been. And now we have what? A potential foreclosure moratorium being lifted, right? Being lifted, unless of course something changes within the next 2 weeks. So right now, if you, and I will say it again, right? Because I think this conversation is that important. Part of our fiduciary duty with our clients is having that conversation with them. Part of our fiduciary duty for our clients is having that conversation with them, is being able to answer those questions, is giving them the updates on what they need to know within the market, right? What they need to know, because now we're going to start seeing if nothing changes, and 100% we start seeing filings on September 2nd, right? Now you have people that are in a very challenging situation. Now, on the flip side of that, does it mean that everything's going to happen all at once? Not necessarily, right? Not necessarily, because what do we know to be true? We know that financial institutions, especially when they experience these big lags, they still have certain obligations, right? They still have certain obligations in order to service the mortgage itself. So we know they still have to pay taxes. They have certain fees that they accrue. So we're also seeing some pretty unique scenarios going on right now. In fact, one where a payment had not been made in a decade. A payment had not been made in a decade and was just negotiated to short sale, right? For a short sale. So that's going to be, you know, I want you guys to see both sides of that spectrum. And come September, we're really going to dig into that a lot more, right? We're going to be digging into that a lot more. And really going through, you know, what not just, hey, make sure you guys are on scripts and role plays so you guys have understanding of what that conversation looks like, right? Make sure you're rewatching that forbearance webinar. But I will note, you guys, if I was in personal production still, the one thing that I would be doing right now is creating a video campaign around this forbearance pre-foreclosure market, right? That's the one conversation that I would be having. I would be really making sure that as a realtor, that I am positioned as the advisor of choice for every single client in my network, right? For every single client in my network, I would be feeding my database consistently, right? I'd be feeding my database consistently, and I'd be communicating to them regularly and systematically with educational content, as well as calling and asking for the business, right? And I'll note, that's when we talk about what's coming on the listing side. Of course, on the buyer side as well, right? We've got that market that we're addressing, and I know we dug into that a little bit more yesterday. But I just want to make sure that you guys are keeping this top of mind. So I'm going to continue talking about it because it's that important, right? It's that important. A couple of the other markets that we have some immense opportunity in right now, right? A couple other markets that we have some immense opportunity in right now. We're seeing similarities of what's happening within the residential side. Guess what? It's also impacting commercial real estate, right? It also impacts commercial real estate. And so what we know is that as we look at, the residential market and the homeowners out there, many of us also have commercial clients that are in our database, or homeowners that maybe own some type of business, right? That own some type of business. So tomorrow we're going to be doing a panel to talk about some of the opportunity that exists and some of the what opportunity we're seeing within the commercial market, as well as next week talking to CoStar, which is the commercial version of the MLS, and an economist of choice to talk about what's going on in commercial real estate, which is also going to be really important. So if that's an area that, hey, you have clients in your database that need additional information, I want to remind you that you do not necessarily need to be the commercial expert. You just need to know someone that is, right? You just need to know somebody that is, so that you can connect them and refer them to, and we have those individuals within the office that can support you on that as well. So make sure that you're on that panel tomorrow as well. And then the other piece, we're also bringing out, two additional pieces that I want you guys to save the date for right now, because we just solidified these, and I think these are going to be really important as well. Next week on Tuesday, right? On Tuesday, we're going to be having a probate class, right? A probate class. So we know there's also opportunity as we look at the probate market and what that looks like. So we're bringing out a trainer that has many years of experience, has background in not only the probate market, has background in the short sale market, has background in 1031, in fix and flip, has a phenomenal track record. We're super excited to have him out to talk about the probate market and what are some of the tactics that you can utilize there. So that is going to be on Tuesday at 1 p.m. And then I know a lot of you guys were on that Gene Rivers, class last month that we did, right? That boot camp. We got some amazing feedback. I mean, Gene Rivers is an absolutely phenomenal agent, phenomenal business owner, right? With a track record of over 100 units a year, right? A track record of over 100 units a year. We are bringing him back out on September 3rd, right, for an all-day listing clinic. There is a price for the tickets. However, we are covering it for you, right? So there'll be a special code. We're going to cover it for you guys as well on that, because we believe that right now, the skill sets that we want to make sure that we're continuing to build up are around making sure that we're ready for the markets of the moment, right? Making sure we're prepped for what's coming, and really understanding the opportunity that we have right now can feel very much like it feels almost like, hey, it's easier to get a buyer because there's so many of them, right? That's perception though, it's just that there's so many of them. A little bit harder to get our offers accepted because there's so much competition and limited inventory, right? And we know that with what's going on in this foreclosure market, with what's going on from the forbearance perspective, the opportunity that is literally at your fingertips is listings. So listings are the highly leveraged opportunity. So we're talking to you about the lead generation component of how do you have those conversations, right? And also what are the different places that we can get listings and find listings, from making sure that we're looking at the probate market, right? Absentee owners, commercial real estate, the forbearance conversation, but also what are the skill sets that we need to have from a presentation perspective? From a presentation perspective, what are the habits that we need to have? Right? What's the mindset that we need to have? So who better to bring than somebody doing 100 listings a year, right? With that type of track record. So that's part of why we're going to be bringing out Mr. Gene Rivers, which I'm super stoked about because I know that class was absolutely phenomenal. And so a lot of info today, guys. I did want to open it up. Are there any major challenges that are coming up right now in your guys' business, or any questions? I know we went through a lot of risk management items and compliance issues yesterday. So I did want to kind of open that piece up because I got a couple text messages after about the RCJC again, about door knocking and whether that was allowed or not, which we discussed, right? What are some of the things to kind of keep an eye out for? Are there any kind of questions that came up around that, or thoughts that came up? And let me also pop open the Facebook piece so I can see those comments as well. Any major questions or challenges that you guys are seeing as well?
Yeah, actually, usually I have people I prospect, and they're saying that they're looking into buying a home within the next year, or maybe when COVID is up and running again, or I mean, when it's actually, when there's jobs coming back around. So when would you actually have them, give them a call or have them connect to your lenders?
Yeah.
That way, yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, that's a great question, Mark. So to kind of go into that piece a little bit more, and one of the things that I think is going to be really important around that is we need to identify if we're calling and we're talking to a potential buyer lead. The first thing we need to identify is the reason that they're not moving forward. Is that an objection, or is it a condition, right? Is it an objection or is it a condition? So I'll give you guys an example. Someone that says, hey, I lost my job. I don't have income coming in, right? What is that, guys? That's a condition, right? That's a condition. It's a condition that I literally am not able to move forward right now because financially I'm not in a secure place, or I don't have that income coming in, so it would be impossible for me to get approved, right? That's going to be the condition. An objection is going to be a little bit different. It's the I'm ready, I'm able to purchase, but for whatever reason, I'm not willing right now. And generally, what we want to identify is that a fear piece, right? What does that look like? Because we are potentially getting some buyers that are saying, hey, based on what's going on in the market right now, I don't know if right now is a good time to buy, right? I don't know if right now is a good time to move forward. And so when we talk to those individuals, two sides of it, one in KW Connect, right, on the pivot page, there is a script specifically for our just not right now buyers, right? There's a script specifically for the not right now buyers. I highly recommend taking a look at that script, right? I highly recommend taking a look at that one. And we want to make sure that we're evidence-backed, right? We're evidence-backed. So a couple examples, we talk about this on the weekly market update, is for a buyer right now that is in a good position, that they have a great job, they've had great income. We know that based on the way interest rates are right now, right, they have approximately 10% more buying power than they did exactly a year ago. We also know there's a lot of competition, and we need to be realistic about what they can potentially afford because they're going to be in a competitive market. But having those conversations and giving them that information, I would start doing that immediately, right? I would become the educator immediately. If somebody says, I'm considering buying, but maybe a year from now, might it not still be a great time if they're in the latter pool, right? Not where they've had job loss, but where they still, you know, are stable, they still have a job, they still have income. Might it not be a great time to offer them a complimentary, no strings attached consultation with our mortgage consultant, right? For purposes of not necessarily saying, hey, let's get you pre-approved, but hey, why don't we see where you're at right now and put a plan in place so that a year from now, if that's really when you want to buy, right, that you're prepared. Because who knows, maybe we have to work on their credit. There might be other pieces that come into play. So I would look at getting them into that conversation as soon as possible. Here's the other side of that. Part of the reason I want to get them into that conversation as soon as possible is a lot of times you will have buyers, right? You will have buyers that they don't realize that they qualify right now. They don't realize, right? They have an assumption that based on their credit or based on X, Y, and Z, why I might not qualify right now, right? But they don't actually know because they haven't spoken with a financial professional that can give them more insight there, right? Another option around that is to create some type of educational event for them, right? Whether that's potentially a buyer seminar, and we can do those virtually right now with tools like Zoom, right? I know Diana did a class on that last month that a lot of you attended, was doing virtual seminars over Zoom. That's gonna be another option that would be available. So Mark, I'd say the biggest thing that I would recommend is, one, make sure to identify if it's an objection versus a condition, right? Make sure that they're going into your database, right? And you're putting them on follow-up campaigns. You're getting your mobile search app into their hands. I had a client that told me, I want to wait 6 months, and they're active 2 weeks later because they started looking at properties on the mobile search app and got excited, right, about the properties that existed out there. And then make sure that if you can get them in front of somebody sooner, I would definitely do that because you may be able to shorten the time frame. But even so, make sure you're tagging them on buyers and you have them on those follow-up campaigns in command. Awesome.
And
Other, go ahead.
so like your only organization for all these numbers you're possibly getting for potentials would only be through command?
Organization in terms
of like, you know, I feel like I'm so good at finding potentials, you know, but then how can I get organized? Like I have just so many numbers on my phone. So I just need to maybe I feel like a paper is not so good because you could lose it, you know, on a planner. But I guess like you're saying, right, on command is the best way, right?
Absolutely. And if you're entering them on your phone, I mean, one of the things that I would do, especially with all the numbers that you have on your phone, I would call them, right? I would call them, have an updated conversation, right? Because that's a contact. And as you're having that conversation with them, put them into command, right? Because within command, there's going to be a couple pieces that's really important. One, we can't look at your guys' phones, right? And look at it and say, hey, when was the last time I talked to this person? And look at it like that. Whereas within command, we know when the last contact we had with somebody was, right? We know that relationship's there. One of the things that I say about database, and we're going to be talking about this, I believe, don't quote me on this, guys, tomorrow when we talk about Millionaire Real Estate Agent, I believe we're on lead generation model. And so I'm going to be digging into this a lot. One of the things that happens is that, like, let's say, for example, we get a lead but pre-COVID, right? But at an open house. They write their phone number and information in our open house book. We're pretending this is my open house book. They write their information in my open house book. I call them after the open house and I follow up. And then I have another lead gen activity and I get distracted over here. And all of a sudden, 6 months have passed and I haven't called the people in my open house book. In fact, I don't even remember when the last time I called them was. And I know this happens because I've sat down with an agent and asked them, where are all your leads? And they say the open house book. And I'm like, when was that open house? And it's 6 months, right? So we know that that happens. And when we put them into a system, right? When we put them into the system like Command, that helps us to have an understanding of when was the last time that I had a conversation with this person. The goal is 90 days max between conversation. Every single person in your database needs to hear from you verbally, right? A voice-to-voice, preferably a voice-to-voice conversation, but a two-way conversation, right? With a specific focus on real estate at least once every 90 days. In addition to that, they need to consistently get real estate information from you. That's where the neighborhood nurtures comes in, right? So if I have a buyer that says, hey, I'm interested in properties in El Sereno, right? Or I think one day when I move, I want to move to El Sereno, or I'm a homeowner that lives in El Sereno, right? Then we want that individual to get an update minimum at least once a month, right? At least once a month about real estate in El Sereno. That's the neighborhood nurture, right? If it's somebody that's a little closer to purchasing, then I'll probably do biweekly, right? I'll probably do biweekly, but minimum once a month. Because what I know to be true is that to get real estate business, you have to be the first person that the people in your sphere of influence think about when they think real estate, right? When they think real estate. And we do that by email. We do that with social media, right? We do that with text messages. We do that with phone calls. And I promise you guys that the system works, right? And I will go into tomorrow when we go over Millionaire Real Estate Agent, I'm going to draw that. I'm going to actually show you guys some diagrams of what that looks like and how it works. But to give you an example, we know that most top producers in the industry, what do they say? They say most of my business comes from referrals, right? Most of my business comes from referrals. The problem is that when we're a newer agent or we're getting into the business, we haven't cultivated that network yet to keep us top of mind. So that's the first part, is we have to build and feed the database consistently, and then we have to systematically communicate to it. And what we know is that when we do that, we create predictable results, right? We create predictable results. So I'll give you guys an example. We all know I do this, right? I work with you guys. I coach and consult. I train. I manage the office, but I'm not in personal production with my clients right now, right? So my personal clients, my personal sphere of influence, I don't actually service those leads. I don't go show properties. I don't negotiate contracts, right? And yet I have active clients right now from my database because I'm top of mind for those clients, right? I have just in the past 2 weeks, 3 clients that called around refis, right? Around refis that called me, right? We love those, but that's because they're consistently getting information from me as it pertains to real estate. So when they think real estate, I'm the first person they think about. And we need to make sure that you guys become that person. And we do that with database, right? So a long answer to a short question, but I think that's really important. Definitely make sure you're on the session tomorrow for MREA because we're going to go into that, and I'm really going to draw out the system for you guys because I like it. I love you guys understanding it so that we understand why we do it, right? Why we do it. I know we're right on time. Any other major questions? I see a couple comments I think we answered those. Great. Awesome. Any other major questions that you guys have or anything else that we can address for you today? Nope. Good. Going once, going twice. Awesome. So a couple things, just make sure there's a lot of training that is on the calendar today. I want to remind you guys that Wednesdays with Keller Williams now are wealth building Wednesdays. So the 1 o'clock live stream session right? The 1 p.m. live stream session is a session geared towards helping you to create wealth and understanding wealth. So they talked about, you know, passive income in the first session, right? They've talked about a lot of different things in these sessions. Each one is going to be focused on different topics, and they're talking with major producers that have built wealth in their own lives so that you guys can start getting that foundational piece as well, right? So I highly recommend that you are logging in to that session. We've also got the mastermind today, right? The mastermind today with Brandy. And there's going to be a top producer on every call, right, for that mastermind session, so that if you have challenges that are going on in your business right now, you can get some of that support on there. So make sure you're on that mastermind. Tomorrow, we do have the commercial panel as well as MREA. So a lot of stuff on the calendar, guys, right? But keep the date saved. And if you're wondering, hey, there's a lot of training, what's best for me to attend? Let me know, right? Shoot me a message and I'm happy to advise you on what training might be best for you guys, right? And I will talk with you guys soon. Go out and make it an absolutely phenomenal day. Bye, guys. Thank you.